Okay, so let's talk about it. That graveyard of half-finished projects you've been kind of hiding. I mean, just look around your room right now. Do you see it? The guitar in the corner that you haven't touched in months? That half-coated website? All those baking tools just collecting dust? Yeah, if you do, you probably know this really specific kind of shame. That little voice that tells you, why can't you just pick one lane and stay in it? And you know what? Society even has a name for this. They call you a dilettante. And we've all kind of internalized that critique, haven't we? It all boils down to this one phrase, a phrase we use against ourselves like it's proof that we just don't have the focus to really succeed. It honestly feels like a personal failing. But here's the thing. What if that whole phrase, that little piece of wisdom that always feels more like a judgment, what if it's incomplete? What if you've only been told half the story? Because the full quote is actually, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. Think about that for a second. This isn't a defect. The thing you've been calling your biggest weakness, it's actually your greatest strength, and it's perfectly suited for the world we live in right now. In fact, psychology is starting to show that this isn't a failure to specialize at all. Nope. What's actually happening is that your brain is building this incredibly rare and powerful cognitive architecture. It's called the M-shaped mind. So to really get why this M-shaped mind is so important now, we've got to take a step back and see just how much the world has changed. See, for most of the last century, the path to success was, well, it was built for a totally different kind of person, in what psychologists call a kind learning environment. Think of it like a game of golf, right? In a kind environment, the rules are totally stable. You practice your swing for 10,000 hours, you get good, you win. The world used to reward people who dug one hole a mile deep. We call them I-shaped specialists. But here's the reality check. We do not live in that world anymore. Our world today is what's called a wicked environment. The rules are changing constantly, like every single day. And in this world, being a hyper-specialist is actually fragile. Because if your one specific industry pivots, you're basically obsolete. And deep down, your brain instinctively knows this. That's why you drift. One year you're completely obsessed with HVAC systems, and the next you're all about yoga and DJing. I know, to an outsider, it looks totally chaotic, but what you're really doing is gathering data from all these completely different domains. And that is what leads to your unique superpower. Yeah, this superpower actually has a name. It's called far transfer. So a specialist, they mostly use something called near transfer, solving familiar problems with the same old familiar tools. But you do something totally different. You use far transfer. You're building these incredible conceptual bridges between ideas that, honestly, to everyone else seem completely unrelated. Okay, check out this amazing real-world example. There was a web developer who used to be a beekeeper. Yeah, a beekeeper. On paper, those two fields have absolutely nothing in common, right? But their deep, deep knowledge of organic systems, of how hives work, allowed them to approach coding in this totally revolutionary way. They weren't just writing lines of code, they were cultivating a digital ecosystem. Now that is true innovation, and it's born from far transfer. But look, I get it. Calling this a superpower doesn't really solve the immediate crushing problem, does it? The burnout. That constant feeling that you're falling behind while you watch your friends become VPs and lead engineers. But the truth is, you are not falling behind. You're just misunderstanding the very shape of your own potential. So the old model everyone talks about is the T-shaped person. A broad base of general knowledge with one single deep area of expertise. But you're not T-shaped. You are M-shaped. And what that means is you have the potential for multiple pillars of deep expertise, and they're all connected by that incredible bridge of your wide-ranging curiosity. Okay, but here's the crucial trap, and this is a big one. You cannot build all the pillars of your M at the same time. It's just not possible. If you try to learn data science, write a novel, and start a business all in the same month, you're going to collapse. The key, the real secret, is something called serial mastery. The solution is to start looking at your life in seasons. Think of them as seasons of construction. So maybe your 20s are your season of deep, intense focus on art and music. Then in your 30s, you pivot to programming, maybe to pay the bills. The important thing is, you haven't quit art. You've just finished building that pillar. For now. There's this fantastic story of a 53-year-old guy who finally made peace with this whole idea. He decided, okay, programming is going to be my money pillar. It pays the bills. And to protect his energy for other things, he only worked 30 hours a week. This left him room for his other pillars, music and game design, to really flourish on the side. He let them build one after another, sequentially. And you know what happened? Eventually, they all merged into his own incredible, unique projects. That right there is the M shape in action. So this whole seasons approach, it does more than just prevent burnout. It actually builds your ultimate advantage. And this final piece of the puzzle, the thing that makes you uniquely bulletproof in today's world, comes straight from evolutionary biology. It's this concept called redundancy. See, in nature, redundancy is an incredibly powerful survival strategy. Get this, elephants rarely get cancer. Why? Because they have massive genetic redundancy. They have multiple copies of their cancer-fighting genes. So if one copy fails, another one just takes over. It's literally a biological safety net. And your so-called chaotic interests, that is your career redundancy. Think about it. The I-shaped specialist, the software engineer, is terrified of being replaced by AI. But what if you're a software engineer who also understands electrical wiring, who can fix an HVAC motor, and who knows how to teach? You're basically unbreakable. All that dabbling you did, it built you a pivot-ready safety net. So it's time to stop apologizing for that graveyard of hobbies. Seriously, those weren't failures. You need to see them for what they really are. They were semesters in a unique, self-directed university that you designed for yourself. All this time, without even realizing it, you've been building this incredible safety net of skills. You've been ensuring you always have a pivot ready. You were never, ever meant to be just one thing. You were built to be the bridge between worlds that other people can't even see. So you see, the real question isn't whether or not you have this power. You do. The question is, are you ready to stop fighting your own nature and finally, embrace your M-shaped future?